It was almost like a magic act, making a white elephant disappear. Seattle skyline once featured a massive concrete structure. It had a volume of 67 million cubic square feet. It weighed 130,000 tons. It was like a brutalist flying saucer had landed in the city. And then poof, it was gone. What the heck happened? I'm talking about the Dome, the Kingdome. Seattle had always wanted to be a big league city, hosting major sports franchises, concerts, even a national political convention. In 1968, King County voters went to the polls and they approved a bond issue for a multi-purpose stadium. Over 100 locations were looked at. Some people wanted it in the suburbs, some people wanted it further out. It took 4 years from the time the vote was passed to the time they broke ground. And when they broke ground, they did it on a piece of property that was largely undeveloped between King Street and the Alaskan Way Viaduct, in what we now call SoDo, which meant either south of downtown or south of the Dome. Dome stadiums were in vogue in the 60s and 70s. It was decided a Dome stadium in Seattle would be perfect for all-weather activities. The Dome was the largest of its kind ever built, over 600 feet across. The ribbed concrete hump on top looked like a giant orange juicer. It was originally budgeted at around $40 million, but guess what? It ended up costing more than $70 million. When it was built, the Kingdome worked as advertised. Seattle was able to attract a new NFL franchise, the Seahawks, and a new Major League Baseball franchise, the Mariners. But the first events held at the Kingdome were a little unusual. One was a soccer match between the New York Cosmos featuring Pele and the Seattle Sounders. And the biggest event was the Billy Graham Crusade.
As you can see, there are hundreds of people coming from every part of this great stadium here in Seattle to receive Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior.
For about a week, thousands, tens of thousands of people showed up every night to hear his preaching. So what was it like on the inside? Well, it was a huge interior space. If you were sitting in the way outfield in the upper deck, you would be 600 feet away from home plate. When there were small crowds, maybe only a few thousand people, the place seemed empty. But when it was full, it really rocked. One of the main features inside was King Beer. You could buy a King Beer for $2.50, a limit 3 per customer. It was 32 ounces, which meant over a 9-inning game, you could drink 96 ounces of beer. That made the place very loud. It helped make a celebrity out of a beer vendor, Bill the Beer Man Scott. He would lead cheers at every game, and when he got the wave going, when the stadium was full of, say, 60,000 people, it was as if the entire population of the city had been put in a tumble dryer. For many, the Dome was a big concert venue. It could pull in over 50,000 music fans. Paul McCartney and Wings kicked things off with the first rock act. They were followed by groups like Aerosmith, The Who, The Rolling Stones, Willie Nelson and Emmylou Harris, Blondie, U2, Led Zeppelin, to name just some of the acts that came through in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. By the mid-1990s, trouble was brewing. Ceiling tiles on the inside of the Dome began falling down. They could kill people if they landed, which they almost did prior to a Mariners game. It turned out the roof was leaky and repairs cost some $50 million. But that also included some upgrades. The big league franchises Seattle had attracted wanted more and more concessions, more and more customization, and soon they wanted their own stadiums. So even the Dome wasn't enough. In fact, it had become obsolete. After less than 5 years, after all those expensive repairs, it was decided to get rid of it. It had lasted 24 years, and it was going to come down before we had even finished paying for it. Taken down is not exactly accurate. In March of 2000, the Kingdome was imploded, and that event drew probably what was one of the Kingdome's largest crowds. People were on the hills and rooftops of Seattle to watch the Kingdome fall in on itself in a colossal explosion. A dust cloud, like a desert sandstorm, consumed Pioneer Square. It left a stack of debris 6 stories high. In the end, from above, it lay flattened as if somebody had stomped on a mushroom. At that moment, a certain kind of nostalgia was born. It divided 2 generations. One that remembered the Kingdome's 80s rec room atmosphere, and those who had never heard of it. Wear a Kingdome t-shirt in town, and people are likely to say, "Oh, I remember that," or "What is that? Where is that?" Apparently, in the new millennium, the Kingdome has slipped down the memory hole.